Hello again. In this episode, we will reach the time when the modern troy weight system first appears, very close to 698 AD. At long last, you might think. It arose in a kind of war of weights on the back of the collapse of the Roman denarius. I will start by spending a little time sketching that. We often read that Edward Gibbon blamed Christianity for the collapse of Rome in the West in his Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. But that is not what he wrote. He did blame the state religion that arose after Constantine, and rulers back then did call that religion Christianity, but crucially, many of their subjects strongly disagreed with that definition. There are things we know today about the monetary reforms of Constantine that were not even suspected in Gibbon's day. They much strengthen his case. So let us fill in this blank, the other side of the religious coin, so to speak. On screen is an account of Roman inflation tracked by the value of the denarius. For about the first 300 years, the rate of inflation was infinitesimal. Talk of debasement under, say, Nero is just a distraction from that big picture. In the 3rd century, a denarius of near pure silver was debased to near pure copper. That would, of course, have shocked Gibbon, but it should not shock us today. It is about the same rate of inflation I have experienced in my own lifetime. What ought to be widely known, but is not, is what happened to money alongside what Constantine called Christianity. That was hyperinflation, money printing. The denarius became a kind of ghost, a notional tiny fragment of a coin, which was itself just a tiny copper. Building today upon Gibbon, it seems that Constantine did not adopt Christianity, rather he greatly transformed it into a tool to attack and undermine rationality. That process went hand in hand with money printing, a warning from the past perhaps. Puny attempts to create a new legitimate silver coinage around 300 AD failed, and by fixing the value of silver very low, at 18 to 1 against gold, Diocletian seems to have moved away from silver, apparently encouraging Persia to take it off his hands. In 312 AD, Constantine launched a new gold coin, figured at 6 to the ounce, the solidus. Alongside that, a base Billion coinage assumed a mere fiat value. 4th century inflation in the Roman Empire was not driven by debasement, it was by fiat, by money printing. Here is a stable gold solidus of the 4th century, used presumably by the top 1%, alongside the miserable copper numus available to the rest of society, with the value of that numus figured in residual ghost denarii. The Eastern Roman Empire, today called Byzantium, eventually stabilized its currency around a gold-copper bimetallism, but a further decline of the copper around 640 seems to have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Here is a relative account of the value of the gold and the copper currencies after Constantine. The value of the gold coin, the currency of the 1%, was rock solid. The rest of the population were often enough like hamsters on a wheel, their cash, if they got any at all, losing value as fast as they earned it. I wonder if my little joke here will offend anyone. I confess I was too pleased with it to leave it out. At this point, despite all the changes to the coinage, the Roman weight system had hardly changed since before 225 BC. A libra still fixed close to 327 grams then. The gold solidus was notionally figured at 6 to the uncia, thus 72 to the libra. An important detail to notice, however, is that this ought to mean a solidus weighing about 4.54 grams. Notice that the solidus never targeted that weight, typically being 4.45 grams. The most likely explanation of this discrepancy is that the mint was secretly striking about 74 solidi to the libra rather than 72. This then was how things stood on the eve of the remarkable Islamic conquests, in which we are led to believe a small group of desert-dwelling provincials easily overran much of Rome and all of Persia. How on earth could that happen? Well, there is a very interesting line in an ancient Chinese text giving advice to emperors. It reads simply, "Your Majesty cannot expect men with broken hearts to fight for you." That seems to me crucial to the understanding of the collapse of Roman rule in the Near East and of Sassanid rule in the whole of Persia. Dominant oligarchies had broken the hearts of their subjects, who would not fight for them and perhaps, frequently, fought against them. Thus by 650, the new Arab rulers already controlled vast territories, but without a detailed plan about how to rule them. Lots of Roman gold coin and vast amounts of Sassanid silver moved about, probably often as bullion by weight. The move to fix this situation came from a perhaps unlikely candidate, Caliph Abd al-Malik. In 685 he began on the back foot, ruling just the west of Islam. A rival caliph and other tribal Arabs held the rest. Meanwhile Byzantium was held at bay only by payment of a large tribute in gold solidi. His decision to pay regular salaries to his army was probably a foundation stone of his later military success, and that was likely what motivated his reform of the currency. By 692, Abd al-Malik had control of Islam and so turned his attention to Byzantium. During the years 693 to 696, Abd al-Malik apparently set out to deliberately annoy the Byzantines by paying them in gold coins bearing his own portrait. This matter is well studied and generally called the War of Images. What supposed leading authorities miss is that the reform of the gold coinage in 697 was just a new phase in that conflict, which became a war of weights. The new Islamic gold dinar weighed close to 4.255 grams. I take that figure from the Californian coin dealer, Stephen Album. A key point to notice is that the new system ignores the low standard fixed by physical Byzantine coins. The Arabs figure a new bullion solidus at full weight, that is to say about 4.54 grams. This bullion solidus was divided into 64 grains of a newly created kind. The new dinar coin weight was then fixed at 60 of those grains. The dinar of 697 announced a new Arab system of coining. No secret adjustments. Coin would be carefully struck to an exact weight, but allowing for a charge on bullion at the mint, in part a state profit of 1/16 by weight. That account is strongly corroborated by what happened to the silver coinage of Persia in the next year. As mentioned earlier, after about 460 AD in Persia, it appears the Sassanids abandoned the Attic standard and returned to the ancient 500-gram mina of Darius, theoretically dividing it into 120 half shekels of about 4.17 grams. If we examine late Sassanid drams, we find they target about 4.13 grams. So here too, it appears the Sassanid mint was secretly given a dispensation, this time to strike 121 half shekels to the mina, rather than the correct 120. The Arabs retained the Persian, indeed Sumerian pound, and now dignified it under the name Rattle Kabir, which means just Great Pound. However, it was now split in a binary fashion into 16 ounces. Not the first time this has happened, of course. We saw the same move before 1500 BC in Crete, and after 1588 in England, shown by my masthead to this series. However, for monetary purposes, the Arabs created a reduced monetary bullion pound of just 12 of those ounces. Each of those ounces was divided into 10 bullion dirhams. Then each of those dirhams was notionally divided into 64 new but different silver grains. Finally, in parallel to the reform of the gold, a new coin dirham of 60 grains was created, thus about 2.9275 grams. I take my dirham weight estimate from the former London coin dealer Mohammed Limbada. Please look at the figures on screen for as long as you wish. Not only are they very internally consistent, they also very clearly demonstrate how the English troy and tower system came into being. Notice there is just a 2-gram slippage in the 16-ounce standard after 13 centuries and it travelling about 3,000 miles. If that slippage troubles you, please look at this account on screen of the doings of modern supposedly competent authorities. The bullion system is that of Troy, the coin system that of Tower. In both cases, the dirham is just 2 English pennies. This correspondence of English and Arab weight was published by Skinner in 1967. The suppression of it in the 2 official books of 1987 and 2004 has set the field of study back by about 300 years. Thanks for watching. If you have questions, do post them.